enjoy the journey and trust whatever process that you're on. You'll see it as long as you trust it and you're patient and just have fun. I think we have a lot of friends who are on now who've bought bikes, and I try to tell them, you're not competing with that person next to you. It's fun, believe me, from time to time to kind of do that, but you should be chasing your goal. Like that personal goal that you set that week before, you should be trying to chase that and get better and build and just enjoy that company that you have. Yes. Especially during COVID right now, where we're not able to get to the gym. Like you got a leaderboard full of people, give a high five. And, I've done I think they have a little video thing where you can just click the video and people pop up. I've done that once or twice. Kind of scared me in the beginning because I'm like, I don't know, letting somebody in.
It's like, what's going to happen?
Right. But I would say just embrace it and enjoy it for what it is. It's a fun community. Everybody inspires one another, and I love it because of that.
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. You know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the clip out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 186. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe.
What is wrong?
Mad.
Okay, what is happening over there?
I'm mad. We were getting ready to start, and my mic just came off the mic stand, off the little hanger guy. And I was trying to screw it back.
Where's our roadies when we need them?
And it's just a simple thing. You screw it back on.
Yeah.
Like it screws back on. And I was sitting here dicking with it, and it wouldn't screw back on. I was getting so mad. And then you come over, and you're like, bloop, it's good.
But you handed it to me. It was already done. I told you that.
Here's what you don't know.
Okay.
And I'm embarrassed, and this is why I'm so mad. Here's what you don't know.
This is why Tom doesn't exercise, guys.
This is why I don't exercise. This is why I don't fix things. I don't change my own oil, wiper blades, nothing.
What is it that I don't know?
I was screwing it the wrong goddamn direction.
Oh. All right.
So, I'm an idiot.
Okay, well, you know what? You are like the smartest man I know. So if you can't screw on a stupid thing, if that's the worst thing that you got going on,
I guess.
I'm gonna take it because I have.
You came over and you're
trust
like,
me.
no, see, that's good. And I was like, and I could see you like, oh, yeah, I should have tried turning it the other direction. I had a 50-50 chance.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey, hun.
I know. I'm just like, this should be right, correct, right? But no.
Don't know how to top that.
No. Well, you know what? We should top it by telling people about who we will be interviewing next week.
Oh, it's going to be an exciting one.
It is an exciting one. Very exciting. So
it has been a year in the making.
A year in the making. So you might remember a year ago this time, Peloton had a commercial that went viral. Right? And the infamous Peloton wife commercial, where everybody was all up in arms, and she wouldn't talk to anybody. She did one interview on the Today Show, done. Hasn't spoken to anybody since.
Yep.
And we got her.
Yay!
So she's going to come on the show, and she's going to sit down for a very lengthy interview about what transpired, what it was like for her, and also just some information just about her and her life, and she's a Peloton user now.
Yes.
And so she'll talk about her love of Peloton. Maybe she'll even reveal her leaderboard name. You don't know. You'll have to check back next week. So if you wondered what that was like from her perspective, check back next week.
Yep.
It should be a good one.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
All of our interviews are fun. We're very lucky. We have really, really good guests.
We are very fortunate in that regard. So I guess what do you have in store for people this week?
Boy, I don't even know. I got so distracted with the mic.
With my anger?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Apple Fitness because we need to talk about that.
Okay.
We have a visit from Dr. Jen Mann.
Heard of her.
We're going to talk about a new patent that Peloton filed.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about how their holiday ad is going over. We're going to talk about some things found on their website in the secret places that I don't even know how people find this stuff.
The nether regions.
It'll all make sense when you hear it.
Okay.
And then there's things back in stock, and then there's new positions that you need to hear about. There's all kinds of things.
Who doesn't want to hear about new positions?
Well, I kind of meant that Peloton was hiring for it, but you could take it there too.
Sure.
New positions are never a bad thing.
We were just talking about nether regions, so why not? Before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, you can find us. And while you're there, be sure and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And of course, if you would be so kind, is to leave a review. People come along after you, and they'll know whether or not we're worth a listen. So
they will appreciate hearing from you.
We have a new review.
Ooh!
This is from Badger Mom.
Oh.
And
does she badger people?
Is
she a badger?
Yeah.
Is she the mom of a badger?
Is this a noun?
I have
Is it
questions.
A verb? This could go a lot of directions.
All right.
Love all things Peloton. I love this podcast. My only complaint is my drive to work isn't quite long enough, so I never get to finish it.
You said the word complaint. I was like,
Oh, no. Why do you pick this one? Hey, at least you're still getting a drive to work right now, right?
That's true.
Thanks for including the recent interview with John Mills, another one of my favorites. Keep up the great work. And leaderboard name is Badger_mom. Real name, Sarah Gerard.
Oh, well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the very kind review.
Thank you very much. Also, don't forget, you can find us on the social medias, facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theclipout, where you can watch these shows in their entirety in HD glory, and you can see the pictures that we share or our interview of the week. That's always can be cool to check out.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So, and of course, you can sign up for our newsletter when we remember to send it out.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, at theclipout.com. So
not as easy as I made it look.
Well, I think now the problem, since we both do it sometimes, is we both forget and think the other one's going to do.
Yeah. I thought you officially took it over, so don't try to put it back on me.
What? So what happened was I started to do the newsletter this week, and it turned out I was screwing it the wrong direction. So that's why there's no newsletter.
Okay, well, I think you've got a pattern established.
So there's all of that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Breaking news.
So everybody's fascinated with the boutique.
Everybody.
Like not
well, except for those people who say things like, I just want my Century shirt and I don't care about the rest.
Okay.
Everybody else.
Right. But I think even people that don't necessarily want to buy the things from the boutique are fascinated by how fast things sell, and what a huge part of the Peloton verse it has become.
I definitely agree with that.
And so we came across some interesting information about the boutique this week.
Yeah, so there is a gentleman out on Twitter, Bob Tremore. You might want to give him a follow because he posts lots of interesting little tidbits about Peloton. So this week, whenever it dropped, the thing that I noticed right away, and I started getting feedback right away, it was not just me that noticed, the Peloton did not sell out immediately.
Right.
So, my theory has been they needed to get caught up because of COVID, and then because of this huge influx of people that joined, and that once they did, they would finally be able to have enough forethought to be able to kind of get ahead of that curve.
Right.
Stock it up enough so that everything didn't sell out in 30 seconds. This appeared to be the collection in which that was the case.
Okay.
They had tons of items, tons.
Right.
And they still have tons of items. And that's almost a week later, which has been a long time since I could say that. So Bob, he posted this little tidbit of inventory numbers. Now, I don't know enough about data mining and how cracking into people's information,
source code and the matrix.
Right. I don't know anything about that. Okay. So according to Bob, because I asked him directly, he said that everything he garnered from Peloton was easily accessible if you knew where to look.
Gotcha.
So in his words, he wasn't doing anything nefarious. I just want to point that out because I don't understand it, so I can't even try to explain it.
But he wasn't hacking.
No.
Yeah. Is that what the kids still call it?
I don't even know.
They got something cooler that they call it?
Probably. Would we think it's cooler?
No.
That's another story.
They call it twacking. It's like hacking and twerking.
We got to stay focused today.
Sorry.
Okay. So, but then what he did is he posted kind of updates for the first several days. So at first he was they dropped 73 women's and men's apparel items, and he checked across everything, all of the items. He looked at the inventory items. So then I guess part 3, he said there were top line figures. So, across all sizes, men and women, they had sold, I believe this was the next day.
Okay.
196,000 units.
Wow.
Yeah. Retail value was $13.5 million. Now, of course, that does not take into consideration everyone using codes. So we have no idea what the real number is. And then, okay, so that was actually later that day after it went on sale. Then the next day, after less than 24 hours, sales have been as following. And then he had, okay, I have trouble following Twitter. Okay, is this saying that it was, because it says part 4, but then it says less than 24 hours, and then the units are actually less. So I'm really confused.
Maybe that's he put some sort of benchmark and this gets tacked on?
I don't know, but he could see how many items remained, and it was 120,000 items that remained. And so far, that was only 4.96 million in retail. So somehow those are out of order. But again, I'm sorry, I don't understand Twitter because it says part 4, but it says 21 minutes ago. So and then it's different numbers. So I don't know, guys. I suck at Twitter. You can go look at the photograph that we have out on our page, in the group, and it's on the YouTube channel.
It's in this YouTube channel video if you want to go look at it there.
Yeah, but the point is that then 2 days later, so on December 6th, he posts that Peloton has taken steps to close down this gap. So they became aware of what he was doing. And he wasn't trying to hide it. I think he even tagged Peloton in that post. And then he deleted the thread. So you can no longer go out to his Twitter and see the thread. Somebody, I believe it was Mike Kyle, just happened to post it in our group so that we could all see it, because we're all data nerds. We love to see that kind of stuff. So the end result is that there were huge numbers, but we don't know what numbers those look like before. I just kind of find the whole thing interesting. Yeah. I find it interesting that this is not the first time, nor, as you'll see in a moment, the last time that they have abilities for people to get to their information. And as one of the people who constantly strives to support Peloton, I find that really frustrating. Come on, guys, I really want you to lock shit down, because I don't want people to use this information for ill. I mean, I use it for fun when people give it to me, but I don't want people to use this against Peloton. And it worries me when I see stuff like this. Their competitors should not be able to get that information. They should not know how many items they're ordering. They should not know how many are left at the end of a sale. I think that's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad mojo.
But I think it's fascinating just how important the boutique must be at this point.
Oh my God, 13 million?
If it's generating that kind of revenue.
And apparently a day?
In a day. That's insane.
It is. I know at one point somebody posted on, I don't know, my Instagram, one of these other things, but they said that between their orders, because they went back and got something else, they were hemming and hawing, and they went back, 2,000 orders had passed in just like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy. Also, in case anybody wanted to know, if you didn't see it yet, the Beyond Yoga stuff, there were outfits that were over on the European site. They didn't make it to the US site. They're there today. So, and so by the time this is posted, it'll be 2 days later. I don't know if they'll still be there.
Right.
But they're there at this moment.
But if that's what they made in a day, what must they make in a year? Obviously, they're not making that every day because they don't have a new.
And again, there's coupon codes.
And there's coupon codes, but I don't think they're as prevalent as you might think. I mean,
I don't know.
They are in for the real diehards that are going there all the time. But I think most people don't interact at quite the same level that you do.
Well, the other interesting thing is they're not making 100% off of that, right?
Sure.
Because they have to pay for some kind of deal that they're whatever.
Right, they have their cost of goods, and yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, but it is fascinating.
But they do how many drops a year? About one a month ish.
They do 14. 14. The last time we talked to Jill Foley, she said 14 drops a year.
That means that in the boutique, if you can extrapolate these numbers, they're probably making about equivalent to. I'm going to turn it into nerd stuff. The gross of a Marvel movie a year just off the boutique. Not a top tier one, not an Avengers Endgame, but like maybe like a nice solid Ant-Man.
Well, okay, just to be, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but like, let's say they were only ordering half of that before, because this is the first time they've had stuff left over.
Right.
So maybe not. Maybe they were actually kind of shooting themselves in the foot because
then maybe it's more like a DC movie.
Yeah.
Will we accept that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And it's a huge revenue stream that I'm sure they never anticipated.
They didn't. I mean, we've talked to Jill. We've talked to John. They did not anticipate it. This was like, they just thought it was going to be a little thing, and it just keeps growing. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So, while we're talking about Bob.
Okay.
There was also this tweet that he did today. Bob posted this, and this picture is a picture of Bradley Rose. Apparently, in this tweet, whenever Bob started digging around doing whatever he does, he found a new addition to the roster. Now, I don't exactly know how this works. I've already said that a million times. Right. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know where he's looking to see this information, but it was a person who had never been there before. This guy is an instructor. He is, like, you can find him out on Instagram, etc.
A fitness instructor.
And so it appears that this could be a new Peloton instructor. So the other interesting thing is that, do you remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about the flower making class?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a flower and other stickers over a well-placed picture of what everybody assumed was a new instructor.
Right. And then at some point they would announce the instructor and they would be deflowered.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that I kind of assumed it was a woman.
Right.
Based on, like, they were thinner.
Right.
And I don't know why. Woman. Well, maybe because they were holding flowers in one of the pictures. I don't know. But
your cultural bias towards flowers says
absolutely
female.
I'm sure that's playing a role here. But this gentleman is on the thinner side.
Right.
He is the same color skin as the person in the photograph. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's him.
Maybe.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And this guy is British, but from everything that I can tell, he's based in the United States.
Gotcha.
So, and whoever was in that picture, we assume was a United States instructor.
Because of the time zone.
The time difference.
Issues,
yeah. So we shall see.
Watch this space. We might have a new instructor, and it might be Bradley Rose.
It might.
Peloton stock ticker.
So joining us once again from the Run, Lift, Live group, it's John Mills. Hey, John, how's it going?
Doing well. How's it going?
Good.
So there was some interesting stuff happening this week with Apple Fitness Plus, because everything has to have a plus at the end of it.
Right.
I know, like right now, especially with the way I'm eating during the holidays, I changed my name to Tom Plus. So
I think I'm going to have to do that too.
You're going to change your name to Tom Plus?
No, I'm going to change it to Crystal Plus.
That makes way more sense. So Apple Fitness announced their official date.
Yeah, December 14th, right?
That's right. It's been announced.
Okay.
You know, when they announced it, well, I hadn't heard about the announcement. I had just saw articles saying, because Peloton had been dropping that morning. So it was early in the morning, it's like 10 in the morning. And these articles kept coming out from like Business Insider and a bunch of other places. You know, Peloton's dropping because of Apple. And I'm like, what? So then I went and looked and saw, they had their release. I don't think the two had anything to do with each other.
You think it was just a random coincidence?
Yeah, because the rest of the day Peloton, went up. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. But they jumped really quick. There were articles all over the place at 10 in the morning.
Yeah, Apple's really good about having everything like on an embargo, and then at a certain time, you flip a switch and kapow, it's everywhere.
So you think those articles were already ready to go?
I think that that they issue press releases to key places, and that they are professional enough that they trust, but they say this is embargoed until May 1st at 10 a.m. Central, and then they flip the switch, and all of a sudden everybody's pushing it out everywhere.
Okay, so are you going to try it, John?
Probably. Out of curiosity, I kind of want to check it out.
I mean, I feel like it's our job to research. Like, for real.
You know, right?
I do.
Right?
I know you're teasing me, but I really do. Like,
when I saw you post that, I started to tease you more about that, but I'm going to try it out too.
I feel like it's my job to not try it.
I'm going to try it.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk shit about it, which I expect we will, then I need to be as accurate as possible. It's different if I don't.
Gotta do serious talk shit research.
There you go.
So if next week the clip out is no longer available through Apple Podcasts, you'll know why.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, I expect it to be like fine. I don't expect to have any real issues with it. I'm curious how it stacks up. So I just kind of I want to do my own deep dive, and I'm curious about your perspective too, John. So I want to see.
And I posted in my group about it, and it's 80+% of the people that responded were like, yeah, we're going to check it out too. Well, mainly because some of them, it's 3 months free, right?
Yeah, why not?
And
like, what's the downside?
They already have Apple products. So they're just like,
it sounds like it'll be bundled in with a lot of the different packages that Apple has too. So a lot of people have it perceptually without paying for it, right?
Yeah, the Apple One thing. Yeah. So what was the feature, or was there a feature that kind of stood out to you that you were like, oh, interesting, I would not have expected that they talked about?
Well, the only feature, and I think we talked about this before, was that how they managed to like a leaderboard based on metrics from the watch. I mean, to me, that's kind of interesting. Not that I have a watch, so I'm not going to be able to test that piece of it, but I'm going to be asking around about if any, you have to tell me how that all plays. He was flipping me off. I didn't know what. You don't have a watch? I don't know. I didn't know what that was.
No, I was showing that I don't have a watch. Yeah.
Okay. But that's the most interesting piece to me. Like, I want to, they listed in that article a bunch of stuff, but it was a bunch of stuff that every one of these platforms have. So
right.
The articles I didn't really.
Okay, well, that was kind of my take on it too. I mean, okay, so you can filter a lot. There's a whole bunch of different options, and they have a bunch of playlists. I mean, okay, so yeah, pretty much everybody. So I don't know. I'm curious, but let's see. We'll follow back up next week and see if we manage to get a workout or two in. How about that?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this was not a story that you came across, but I was interested for your take on it because you're very business minded and appreciate that aspect of the Peloton world. But we saw that a couple weeks ago, Peloton filed a patent on cosmetics.
Yeah. So take on that. What's your feel? What's your reaction?
Well, when I saw that, when you shared that with me, Crystal, so when I saw that, I thought, okay, we had just saw Tunde talk about her kind of partnership with with Revlon, I think it is.
I don't remember, but it's a lipstick line.
So I saw her partnership, and so it made me think of Lululemon. Okay,
sure.
So Lulu is selling Fabletics type clothing, athletic clothing.
Yeah.
And so they acquire Mirror because during the pandemic, all these brick and mortars are closed, and they figure this fitness platform would give them another mechanism to advertise their product.
Right. Makes sense.
And so people start following all these instructors, and they'll say, oh, I like those magic pants. I got to get those. And, so when I saw this, I thought, is this just something we're just going to start seeing where these companies that have a platform already and already got tons of people following these instructors, they'll just start offering products that they could just, every class is an advertisement for that product?
So here's another interesting thing. Yes, first of all, yes, I think that is true.
Yeah.
I think everything you just said is exactly what we're going to see.
Especially when they see how we were talking earlier before you joined us about how much, product they move through the boutique, and obviously it has a very Peloton, at least at the moment, I think has a pretty female skew. And so imagine if they had their own line of cosmetics.
Okay, but then add to the fact that almost every female instructor does makeup tutorials online. Almost every single one. And I feel like that's not a coincidence. And then let's not forget, Tunde's a freaking makeup artist. Like, let's not forget that.
That's something she knows well.
So wait, so then my mind went, has this been in the works for like 2 years?
Yeah, makes you think. Could be. I don't know. Ultimately, the concept to me made me go, okay, what other products might they all of a sudden start?
Right. But see but then the question I have, if they start going down that road and having more and more kind of ancillary products or parallel products, is these instructors, they make it's a pretty good side hustle for them with various endorsement deals. And if all of a sudden they're like, well, you can't do a makeup line and you can't do maybe you can't do a clothes line because we've got our own stuff. If they want to get that aggressive about it, all of a sudden they start pulling those things off the table. What
does that do for the instructors?
Are the instructors going to be like, well, then I want to make more money, or I want to get grandfathered in, or you know what I mean? Like it raises some other complications potentially down the road.
It does. And right now, what they do with the Peloton clothing is they say one item has to be Peloton. Everything else can be something else. So maybe they would even do something like that for the makeup.
What I meant though is like if they made their clothing a brand line like that, like Peloton is the brand.
No, I understand.
Instead of a Nike or an Adidas or something.
And I was saying they may decide not to go that route. They might do with the makeup what they're currently doing with the makeup, and that is like, okay, so as long as you have eyeshadow on by Peloton, then you can wear whatever else you want to wear.
Right.
I have no idea what they will do, but you can't help but like go down all these rabbit holes of curiosity of what's going to happen.
And as a guy, I don't know. As a guy, I'm going to assume you don't know, John. So I'm going to direct this to you, the non-guy in the room. Do women have brand loyalty with makeup?
Oh, yes.
To the point of, like, I get that there might be brand loyalty in terms of, like, I only like Revlon's lipstick, or I only like, I don't know, Avon's eyeshadow. Because I'm 100 years old and know nothing about cosmetics, right? But are there women who are like, no matter what type of makeup I need, lipstick, eyeliner, blush, it will only ever be this one particular brand?
Absolutely.
Is that a common thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that it kind of depends on what works for you.
Sure.
Like there's always going to be things to take into consideration, like your skin type. Like if they don't have something that's for your skin type, then you could care less. Like they may only have eyeshadow that works for everybody, but maybe they don't have like a foundation that works across the board, So then that's going to impact your loyalty. And a lot of makeup lines don't have something for everyone because you need all skin colors, you need all skin types, and then you need things that attract all different kinds of people. So you need the glam sparkly stuff, but you also need the more matted things for during the day. That's a lot. That's a huge amount. And if I know Peloton, they're going to start small. They're going to start with like, we're only going to do lipsticks, for example. And I go back to that because Tunde lipsticks, and then they'll expand from there. That's what I think will happen.
Gotcha.
I know. Yeah, I know very little, if like nothing about this topic, but I know this. Erica would find, this happens occasionally over the last 30 years. She'll find like some, I don't know, eyeliner or some lipstick. And it'll be only sold at this one particular place, and it won't just be her. It'll be like all kinds of people are looking for that one thing that's out there in the social world as, the greatest lipstick for this skin color or whatever.
It's the Air Jordans of lipstick.
Right. Yeah. And then everybody's looking for that.
It's a thing.
So so it makes me think that, I'm assuming if they got into this, it looks like they are.
I tell you what, guys,
here, right?
I can't even tell you how many posts I see that somebody posts, like one of the instructors will post about anything, And the response is, what color are you wearing? What brand is that? Like, that is the response. So this will...
and all of a sudden, thousands of people are kind of buying that one thing all of a sudden.
You got it. And Peloton was like, why are we not doing that?
Yeah. I get that about my hoodies all the time. It's why I stopped going on Instagram. Like, it's why I don't hardly post. I was like, my hoodies are for me. Like, that's just my you don't want to share your hoodies. Right, it's just my space. And
I understand.
Yeah. So then, before we let you go, one more topic. You had found some interesting stuff about the Peloton holiday ad video.
Yeah, the response on the OPP.
Oh my. Okay, so I don't know what prompted me to go there. I just went to the Peloton page. I commonly go there, and I saw the holiday ad. It's a nice, heartwarming, comfortable ad about a brother and sister who are just competing on the bike and sending each other Raz type messages. It was just so holiday season appropriate. I just felt really good in my heart.
And then
I read the comments and I was in terror. Yeah. Okay, so right. So in the comments, I figured there was going to be people like, this is so nice, it's so lovely. No, there are people going, I've been waiting 12 weeks for my bike and there's nobody even called me. What's going on? And then people come behind that. Yeah, I've been waiting about 12 weeks too. What's going on? And, they were all pissed off. So the contrast just got me. So I took an image and then, lined out all the faces and names.
Right.
And then put it in my group like, wow, they're going in over here. Right.
And that's probably like, we talked about, I think it was last week, about how Peloton had really scaled back on their marketing at Christmas time because they felt like it's, people are going to get mad if they're doing this big ad campaign while other people are sitting home still waiting on the bike that they bought 2 months ago.
Turns out that was a yes.
Yeah.
And they weren't even trying that hard. Also, your comment about the digital offering and how Peloton was pointing out that people could take the yoga and the stretching and the meditation.
That was just, it sounds like it's helpful, right? These people are all upset. And then Peloton comes back and says, well, we're going to, complimentary. You can just take, digital. You can take some meditations and some outdoor walks. I thought, wow. That sounds like you just told me to calm down.
Yeah, that's some passive aggressive shade. Like,
pat.
Like, honestly, I'm like, as somebody who has in my day job has to respond to shitty comments on the internet, I'm like, well done. That tip. That's
makes me want to start offering some yoga and meditation when people post things I don't like. Oh, you didn't like the way I said that? Here's a meditation class for you.
I wish I could afford to hire whoever wrote that. That's
Take this outdoor walk. I kid, but I do feel for these people. They're upset because it doesn't sound like they're really upset about the delay. They're upset because they don't think they're getting the appropriate level of communication.
Yeah,
clearly.
I get it. It's just all of this, all the little things in this. I just found humor in how it was playing. You know what it reminds me of? Like 10, 15 years ago, I played some prank on Erica. I don't even remember what the prank was, but I played some prank on her, which I've done a lot. And the next morning, I'm getting out of bed and I'm all comfy and I get into a warm shower and I'm just in there, not even taking the shower. I'm just like this. I look up, she has a bucket of cold water. She pours on me cold water. And then I'm in chaos. That's what that post looked like. It was all warm and just lovely.
Somebody poured cold water.
And then somebody poured some cold water.
That is some insight as to why your marriage has lasted so long. And I don't even know if you really connected the dots, but all this time later, years later, you don't remember the prank, but you remembered the consequence. And
consequence was painful.
Yes.
That says Erica chose well.
Yeah.
She knows your currency.
John was like,
that cold where you're trying to talk and then you just go, ooh. That's how bad it was.
John was like, duly noted. And then piggybacking on that post real quick, because I think it applies, but Bloomberg talked to John Foley about the supply chain issues, and he had some interesting comments about that.
Yeah. So he talked about he said that for a long time we're going to be scrambling to increase our capacity, and we hope to resolve some outstanding supply issues. For now, we have cut ad spending to avoid inflating expectations. Your reaction cracked me up. It would have never even occurred to me to have the reaction of they put a governor on growth.
I mean, and I got some pushback on that too. I mean, I understand why.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to say I didn't understand why.
Sure. No, I totally get that. I do. I get
but
that.
if you're just an investor, just thinking if you're just an investor, you put a whole bunch of money behind a company, which so happened I did. And then all of a sudden, the CEO goes, by the way, we're going to slow this ship down because we...
You're like, wait. Full steam ahead.
Wait, what?
I do think long term it's the right decision to make, though, as someone who also puts money into it, right? But I think it is the right decision to make, because it's like you also don't want to piss people off, and so like you certainly want to grow, and you hate to to steal a metaphor, throw cold water on the growth, but also like it doesn't really behoove them to keep pushing bikes that they can't get into people's hands and just get those delay times. If it's 12 weeks now for some people, if they kept pushing, they're going to see those delay times creep up to 14, 15,
That's right.
18 weeks. And that gets even uglier. So I think as much as it sucks, it's the right call, but it doesn't make it not suck.
Right. It's like, I've invested in stocks before, and then it didn't turn out well, and then I'll be all upset about it, and then Erica will be like, that's done, like let it go, that's over, right? Like that's the way she sees it, while I'm just still in pain, like with the what could have been. But she doesn't deal with what could have been, she just deals with what is or isn't.
I feel like wait,
oh man, so this reminded me.
I think hang on, you need to be like, wait a second, Erica, wait a second, like you threw cold water on me in the shower, and now you're telling me to let something go?
That's what she does. She tells me to let it go.
That's why he's still married to her. Do not don't take his advice, John. Just do what you've been doing.
I heard that, Tom. You're right. I gotta think about this.
No.
If nothing else, the next time she's in the car, maybe just play this part, and then she can be mad at me, but you can live vicariously through what I'm saying. And then you could even be like, stop it before it gets this part. You could even be like, that Tom's a real son of a bitch. I am shocked and appalled at the way he thinks and behaves.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But that's the way I thought about this thing with Foley saying, we're going to have to slow. I was like thinking what could have been.
Yeah.
I know maybe they could have never been prepared for a pandemic happening and all.
Right.
But your mind goes, what if they had the facilities to do to produce enough for the demand? Wow. So I'm doing the what if like this, like I always do.
But on the flip side,
in the post.
On the flip side, though, if they had that capacity, you would have spent the last year thinking, what are they doing? They're not going to have that kind of demand.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a situation.
Right.
So
you're right. That's true. That's true.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us again. Until next week, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook in my Run, Lift, and Live page or group. They can find me on Instagram, Run, Lift, and Live, or at runliftandlive.com.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jen.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube, Dr. Jen Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couples Therapy with Dr. Jen or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jen. Her long-running radio show, The Dr. Jen Show. She's written 4 best-selling books, including The Relationship Fix, Dr. Jen's 6-step guide to improving communication, connection, and intimacy. Dr. Jen, hi.
Hi.
Hey there.
So last time we had reached out to listeners to get some suggested questions, so we're going to that well once again. And this person said, you exercise all the time, you feel like you're stronger, but you don't have definition. You don't feel like you're seeing it physically. What do you do now? I would say stop. But
well, you never would have started.
You're going to stop exercising, Tom.
That's right.
Before you started.
That's why they're asking Dr. Jen and not you.
This is why I don't have a segment, right? This is why I'm comic relief and you're trained professional.
Well, first of all, I think that the fact that you're exercising consistently and you're getting stronger is everything. And what it means is that you're going to, like, providing all in the world goes as it's supposed to, you're going to live longer, you're going to be healthier, you're doing things that are going to help fight cancer, diabetes, heart disease, like you're doing all the right things and you're getting stronger, which means that your body is responding to the exercise. And what we have to keep in mind is that we can control the process, but we can't control the outcome. We can control how often we work out, we can control what we do, but we can't really control how our body responds to the exercise. And you are getting the health benefits. And to me, where you want to focus on is the body acceptance aspect. You know, we're not all Olivia Amato body types. We're not all super cut, super muscular, sinewy kind of fitness models. And it doesn't mean that you're not healthy. It doesn't mean that your body is not beautiful. And really, to me, the work for someone who's struggling with this is to be able to look at her body and say, I mean, I'm assuming her, but it could be a him, to look at his or her body and be able to say, wow, look at how beautiful my body is. Look at all this incredible stuff my body does. How cool is it that I can get through, you know, a 30-minute spin class? How amazing is it that I'm lifting heavier weights? And to be able to appreciate that process and that you're getting results, it just may not be the results that you have chosen to prioritize. And it may be a good idea to kind of change your priorities and let your priority be your health instead of this idealized body image that may not be what your body's meant to do. Different people have different body types, and you can be someone who is super healthy and super fit, but is just not as muscular and defined as someone else.
So maybe the definition they should be working on is how they define success.
Oh, listen to you.
That's a freebie. You can put that in your next book.
Yeah, thank you. But it's true. It's very true. You know, it's like the thing that inspired me to work out initially and has continued to is I really want to live a long time to see my children's children. Like, I want to dance at their wedding. Like, I want to be able to, you know, I do yoga at least once a week. I used to hate yoga before Peloton, but like, it was the Billy Joel yoga class.
That's the one that got you?
What was that?
I said, that's the one that got you. Like, you're
yeah, that is the one. Because I'm a hardcore Billy Joel fan, and that just sucked me. I was like, okay, I can do this. Like,
please
this is actually fun.
Please tell me they have a move called the Downeaster Alexa.
They should. They absolutely should. That's a good one. But when I do it, I think about the studies I read about. As we get older, our balance is not as good, and I always think, like, I want for my kids to not have to worry I'm going to fall over, right. And I want to be able to go up and down the steps. I don't want to break a hip. So it really is, you're right on the money, Tom, that it's about redefining what success is. And success is good health. Success is being able to live a long time, being stronger, having bones that are less brittle, having lungs that are working well. And I think it's really important to work on self-acceptance and appreciating the beauty of our bodies, even when they don't look like some supermodel that we expect them to or want them to.
Somebody's always jealous of someone else, of a feature someone else has that they don't.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, no matter what, there's somebody that wishes they could have that aspect of what you have.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's also so often I talk to people who have struggled with their weight or eating disorders who have said to me, you know, if I just appreciated how good I looked then when I thought that I was fat, or I was so critical of my thighs, or I hated my ass, like, if I just looked like I did then, now I would really appreciate it. And I think it speaks to, we need to work on appreciating ourselves. And one of the things that I have found as a therapist and also as someone who's recovered from an eating disorder is that we don't change by hating ourselves. We don't change by not liking what we see in the mirror. I had to accept my body 50 pounds heavier than it is now in order to treat it with kindness and love, which allowed me to get to my healthy natural weight, which was ultimately a lot less, but only because I was able to not use food as punishment or withholding and have a negative relationship with it. Because when you don't like yourself and when you look in the mirror and you're so critical, you're more likely to overeat. You're more likely to be like, oh, take that, we just can be so mean to ourselves. And that does not make us make healthy choices. It, on the contrary, it tends to make us overeat and tends to make us not honor our bodies and our hunger and our satiation and eat the foods that we love, because there's always got to be a balance.
Awesome. Well, wow. Thank you for all that.
Yes, definitely.
And until next time, where can people find you?
People can find me on social media at Dr. Jen Mann, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Mann.
So there was an interesting moment this week.
There's a series of moments.
But like poor Matt Wilpers. We don't say this to beat up on him. It's just kind of hard to not talk about something like this occurring.
Well, the thing is that like I said in my post, it just shows you that everybody, even the people that we focus on and put on a pedestal on social media, they're people. Yeah. They're human.
So for people that miss it, you should probably address what occurred.
So if you missed it, literally in the middle of taking a live run, and all of a sudden, Matt Wilpers, 8 minutes and 38 seconds left, with no warning whatsoever, he looks down seriously at his monitor, and he says, "I'm sorry, guys, I gotta go. My stomach hurts." Yeah, and then fade to black.
Yeah,
like it. It took me like several seconds to be like, they're not going to bring it back. Like I was still running up this hill, and then I was like, I need to switch gears, and I went to do a cool down run. But it's like I've never experienced that. I don't think anybody else has. Good for the team being so quick and shutting it down.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're really sorry for Matt Wilpers. Like he has stomach issues. He's addressed this before. This is not a one-time thing. And it must have been miserable for him to end a class. It is not something he normally would have done.
And when Peloton creates as much live content as they do, something like this is bound to happen eventually. So
it is.
It's just so hopefully he's getting a feeling better.
I definitely hope so. I have not seen anything. He did not do his class that later that day. It was like a half hour later. There was a live strength class. He did show his humor, and he posted a picture of an angry cartoon stomach, and it said, "Sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to leave you hanging. My stomach took a selfie and sent it to me." And I thought that was great. Like that's perfect humor, you know. So he's okay, but I don't know if he's like, this is an ongoing thing, will continue or not. So we'll have to hang in there. But oddly, right after that, I went to go take a yoga class.
Right.
And then it was another reminder of how much our instructors are like on. There's so much in the focus. They are constantly on. You ever have one of those days where you're just like, I do not want to be on. I just want to be like in my pajamas and I don't want to deal with anybody.
I'm always on.
You kind of are. But, surely you've had those days.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I went to go take this yoga class with Aditi, and she was a little teary and sad. Her dog had just passed away. And I felt so bad for her. And she told stories about him, which was adorable and sweet and heartfelt. And but I know it was hard for her.
Yeah.
It was her way of processing.
What
And I thought it was a smart thing to do. It's like you already know you're going to be upset, so you might as well just meet it head on.
Yeah.
And go that route. And it's like that's what they would tell us to do. That's what the instructors would tell us to do. So they practice what they preach. But then example number 3, this all happened in one morning. I was like, what is happening in Peloton today? Because then I got all these messages from people, and somebody had left up on the screen a test class that was occurring in the London studio. I believe it was 10:30 UK time. 10:30. I don't know. 10:30. So I guess that would have been AM. And apparently it went live. Okay, so we often see these test classes. Like it happens all the time. I get them all the time. People send them to me all the time. It happens. There are a lot of things they're testing out. But they don't usually actually go live. And this one went live. And it went live for like 5 minutes. And they had a hot mic, which should not have been on. And I'm not going to repeat what was said. It wasn't awful, but it would have been embarrassing for somebody to have been overheard.
Gotcha.
And then eventually it went to black and just all music. So like this woman that is up on screen right now, this is one of the techs in the London studio and not an instructor, and clearly had no intention of being, she had probably had no idea that even occurred.
Totally.
So, gosh, all I can say is sometimes I forget that everybody is just doing a job.
Yeah.
Like Matt, Aditi, this woman in the London studio, they all got up that day and thought it was going to be a normal day and did not expect for any of those things to occur. And it's reminder, like, it's okay to have a bad day.
Right.
It's
happens.
okay.
It happens. No harm, no foul.
No. I appreciate everybody being professional and doing what they needed to do despite all of their challenges. So,
new content.
So it looks like we're inching closer to class stacking. We talked about this. We broke this story 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like that. Yeah,
it's been a while.
That class stacking is coming, and people are very excited about that. But we should probably talk about real quick, because I know some people have reached out to ask, like, they don't fully get like why it's that big of a deal.
Yeah. So if you go back through the history of Peloton, there used to be a great emphasis on longer classes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Then you kind of evolved into Stephen Little doing heart rate zone training. And he really focused on the longer classes at a lower intensity. That's where all of your fat burning takes place. And most importantly, it wasn't just about fat burning, because I know that some people disagree with that theory. Right. But the major point was it was the endurance. So if you wanted to go do a 100-mile bike ride, this is how you do it. This is how you train. You don't get on and do an hour a week. Like that's not going to, an hour a couple of days a week. That's not going to do it.
Right.
This is how you train. And then right after that, you had power zone classes hit. And those, the same kind of thought process behind it. You're really training. You're training for an event. You're not just training. You're not just getting on the bike and getting stronger and losing weight. It becomes this whole like, I am an athlete and now I can train for things like an Ironman and stuff like that. So it was a whole different way of looking at it. Why does that matter? Because all of those classes focused on a longer format. Well, as we've talked about a million times, Peloton has the data apparently to show that, all of these shorter classes are what people take.
That's what people gravitate towards.
80% of the classes are 20 minutes. I know that ticks people off, but it is what it is. So Peloton has gone in that direction to meet the demand. Then you add in COVID, happens even more.
Yeah.
Okay, well now we had another purge. And so a lot of the longer classes got hit. And I think that there's two things happening here. I think that's because we have the music. That's still going to be an issue. It's going to be a rolling case basis.
Right.
And those rides happen to be older. And they're not being taken.
Right.
I know people have classes they go back and take over and over again. I hardly ever do.
Right.
And I think there's a lot more people like me. I think there's people that jump on and they're just taking whatever's in front of them. Why does that all matter to class stacking? Because class stacking will be good for those people who need those longer rides.
Yeah.
Because they will be able to stack 3 20-minute rides, still have an hour. Then they can use the skip intro feature, and they're still going to have a warm up that they're going to have to deal with, but it will help make things better and more smooth. I get it. I know. I hear you all in my head yelling that this is not satisfying you. I know that. I'm just explaining why, for a lot of people, this is why class stacking is important.
Right.
It really fits the bill. It's a history thing that people who are new to Peloton, they're not going to get the full understanding of that. So I'm just providing it.
And people probably just need to make their peace with the fact that Peloton's always going to prioritize the newer stuff. And the same way that Netflix prioritizes the newer stuff. The first original programming on Netflix was a mafia show called Lilyhammer, I think it was. And try and find it. It's on there if you search for it, but like it's never going to pop up on your main screen when you log into Netflix. That's 8 years ago. They don't care anymore. And
I think you made a good point about keeping people in the present too.
Yeah.
I think that, when you and I were talking about it offline, you talked about how Peloton is kind of pushing people to be in the present.
Yeah.
But even if they're not, like even if that had nothing to do with it, Peloton is going to keep making changes, whether you guys agree with them or not. You have the power to speak up about it. You know that the data is what does it. If you want things to change, you need to get people to take the classes. It does not matter how much you talk about it if you don't have the numbers to back it up. I just think that's a reality. I know there are people grumbling at me right now, but that's just a reality.
Yeah. So, and then there's a new filter that's finally rolling out on the bikes.
Yeah. So first it hit Android, then it finally hit over on the iPhone, and now it's finally rolling out into the bikes, the taken, not taken feature. So whenever you are filtering classes, you can quickly see what you have taken and not taken, which will be important for all the things that I just talked about. When you're trying to put a playlist together, you want to be able to quickly see what you've already taken, so you don't throw some ride in there that you've already done. So this will be helpful for people now and in the future.
And then also, tread weights at long last are back in stock.
Yep. As it was, let's see, December 7th they hit. I checked today, December 9th. They are still in stock. Can't promise how long they're going to be there, but get them while you can.
And that's important because weights have been really hard to find, not just Peloton weights, any weights.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They have been hard everywhere. So get them while you can. Spread the word.
There were a couple of interesting new positions open at Peloton.
Yeah, so if you think back to the cosmetics discussion we had, you think about what we were just talking about with the store, a whole lot of product growth, right?
Right.
Well, Peloton has not ignored that.
Right.
So they are hiring a VP of product for e-commerce. They are hiring a VP of engineering for e-commerce. Also, I think it's fascinating. John Foley has talked many times about how they plan more global expansion beyond what they've already done. And now they are hiring a new position, director of product international. So it definitely shows that there are going to be lots of things happening beyond UK, Germany, and Canada. So, we've talked about the classes that we think are coming in the different languages. John Foley touched on that in the last thing. There's a lot. Like
John Mills.
No, John Foley talked about it. He talked about it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
He talked about it during one of the most recent earnings calls. We discussed that with John Mills, though. There's a lot of Johns.
Yes.
And so this will be exciting because people are saying like Peloton has kind of lost their innovation. I really think there's things in the works that people have no idea about.
Yeah.
I still think there is something coming with nutrition. I still think there's something coming with this cosmetics. Now I think there's going to be something interesting with the global. So like don't count them out just yet.
Agreed. So Tonal has introduced cardio dance.
They have. They partnered with, I believe it's a company called Cardio 305. They have special instructors, guest instructors that came over, and they're doing nothing but teaching cardio content. So it's another way you don't necessarily want to go all out on the bike, but you want to, for your cardio, you've just done a strength. This is a great way to pair that.
Just roll right into it.
Exactly. I love that they give you so many ways, both at Peloton and Tonal, to be able to mark all those days on the calendar. If you want to have every day that you did something on Tonal, you can do a strength, you can do core, you can do meditations, you can do bar, you can do Pilates, and now you can do cardio dance. So they just keep adding to the repertoire.
And of course, it's a sleek at-home gym. If you don't know what we're talking about, I don't know how you couldn't at this point, but it's strength training for your home, and it uses electromagnets so you can replicates lifting weights. It's a pretty nifty concept.
It's a beautiful machine.
It is. It's very nice looking. I'll stand there and look at it.
They also have all of these new features, the form feedback, the advanced weight modes. You've got spotter, eccentric, burnout, chains, and they just added Smart Flex, which is amazing. So you can do all of these things, keep strength training, even while you can't go to the gym.
The form feedback is pretty impressive because it lets you know if you're not doing a move right, and it's not looking at you.
The camera's there, but it's not even turned on yet.
Right. The handles that you use to access the weight, it can tell if you didn't do it right, and it'll give you a little tip and says, "Hey, do this longer or pull this sooner," or I don't know, but it tells you. And that's the important thing.
It does.
And right now you can try Tonal for 30 days risk-free if you visit www.tonal.com for $100 off the smart accessories when you use promo code TheClipOut at checkout.
That's www.tonal.com, promo code TheClipOut. Tonal, be your strongest.
Peloton in the news.
Yahoo had an interesting article about Tune Day this week.
They did. She got to share her tips about self-care and staying disciplined. And, she talked to us about this whenever we interviewed her last year and talked about how she stays disciplined. And it's all about exercising to feel good, not to look a certain way. And I love hearing Tune Day talk. I could listen to her all day. She has so many great pieces of advice. So definitely check out this article.
And then speaking of Tune Day, she's really making the rounds right now.
She is.
She was on the Allie on the Run podcast.
Yeah, tons of people in the Peloton community listen to this podcast, and it's very popular with the Peloton set. But one of the most recent interviews had Tune Day in it, so I haven't gotten to listen to it yet, but I heard glowing reviews, so definitely check that out.
Then there's a Flash Challenge coming up.
There is, yeah. It starts on it started on December 6th, goes through December 19th. So what you do is it's all about the new bike boot camps. You take 4 of them over 14 days. So this is a perfect time if you haven't had a chance to take one of the new bike boot camps with Tune Day, because she is now an instructor. We're on a Tune Day streak here. Make sure you check those out because she is an amazing instructor, and I think doing a boot camp with her and getting those arms would be a bonus.
And while we're speaking of challenges, Peloton has a December challenge.
They do. And so you get a gift for completing 5 workouts, 10 workouts, and 15 workouts. Maybe beyond that, we don't know. But you get gifts for completing them. Somebody on the OPP as an aside, they said that they wanted to know when Peloton was mailing them. Like they thought it was really going to be a gift. So that's the kind of thing you find in the OPP these days. But the kind of gift that Peloton had in mind was like, here's a brand new badge. They also, one of the things that they talked about, they posted like, hey, this is our first gift this year. And I don't think you have to do the challenge. Well, I know you don't have to do the challenge. You can get it anywhere. It's having all of these amazing holiday classes they have themes around music. For example, there's tons of them, guys, but 2 that I am super excited about. 1 is coming up tonight, so it will have already occurred on Friday. Okay. But it is going to be Matty Majacomo. He just announced today, Marathon is back. And this time it's going to be Mara the Holiday Edition. I can't freaking wait. Apparently, Maddie drank too much eggnog, so Mara's going to have to fill in for him. So that's going to be amazing. And then the other one I am really looking forward to, Jen Sherman, 60 Minutes Epic Sing-Along Holiday Edition. So it's going to be all the holiday classes.
All Christmas songs?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, 60 minutes. And it's been so long since we've done an epic sing-along.
And that's a lot of Christmas songs because most Christmas songs are like 2.5 to 3 minutes long. So they're pretty short.
Yeah. So I am so stoked. And there are tons of them. There's rides, there's runs, there's meditations, yoga. It's all over the place. So take the holiday classes. You will not want to miss them.
Awesome. So then we have a sad update.
We do. Oh my God. This is absolutely heartbreaking. So anybody that has been following Jen Grams Thorson, her family, she did the Smiles for Miles, and she did the Ride for Carter. Her son Carter has sadly passed away. He passed away from end-stage renal failure. She posted last week that he didn't have long. And unfortunately, he passed away. Please send your love to this wonderful family who has been through so much. It's the holidays. It would suck no matter what.
Yeah, there's never a good time.
Never. But I don't know what they're going through. I know that we lost my sister under tragic and surprising consequences, and it changed our family forever. I don't know. I don't know how this would be in relation to that. I just know it was terrible for us, and my heart goes out to them. So,
and then an odd segue, but oddly fitting.
Yeah.
Bear with me. So there's a new artist series coming.
Yes.
From Nicki Minaj.
Yes.
Who Jen posted that was one of Carter's favorites.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it happened this week because the Nicki Minaj classes were this week. Like it was the 9th through the 11th, and since it happened this week, since Carter passed this week, that is, I think, healing timing.
Yeah.
For Jen and her husband. So their whole family. God, heartbreaking.
And then finally, John Foley is to be honored in the 2020 edition of Bloomberg Business Week as one of 2020's Bloomberg 50.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a pretty major accomplishment. You can see all of the honorees out at the Bloomberg site, but it's kind of crazy. So it talks about people in business, science, all over the place. I mean, as you can, if you're looking at the website right now or you're looking at the YouTube channel, some of the other nominees include Fauci.
You go to this page and the first thing the two easiest faces to make out, John Foley, Fauci. That's a rarefied air.
I mean, this year is just, this year Fauci,
Yeah.
And so then right next to him, John Foley.
Yeah.
So that's, wow, pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
So congrats to Peloton. Congrats to John Foley. I can't wait to hear all the details of that honoring. Like, I'm sure there will be some kind of celebration of that. So very cool.
Yeah.
Peloton personnel.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Eli Winfrey. Hey, Eli, how's it going?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being on here. I was saying before we started officially recording that I think you're the first guest who has a better mic than we do.
Yeah, that thing's fancy looking.
Yeah, that's a real radio mic. That's the kind that I always look at like we should get some of these, and then I throw them in the Amazon cart, and I'm just like, I think it's probably fine what we're doing.
Sounds great, though. It's awesome. So while we're on that subject, tell us about your radio show. Tell us about what that is, how you got that fancy
How
mic.
you came to be in such possession of such a fancy microphone.
The microphone, same as you. I just got on Amazon and was looking and was like, oh, I like that. And they have gold. Oh, I want the gold one. And that's how it came to be. The radio show, I'm an autism advocate, and I do a lot of things in the community, and I get asked all the time to, create a radio show or produce a radio show. I've been told you have a radio voice. I don't really know what that means. In advocating, I just said, I'm going to give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? You get laughed at. That's fine. You know, and it's taken off. And, we talk about ways that folks are giving back to the community, how they're raising awareness for autism for low-income families. It's pretty educational. We do have a bit of fun when we answer guest questions. Mm-hmm. We've done the show now for, I think, 3 years, going on 3 years. So it's
wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So where do people find it?
So the show originated on blogtalkradio.com.
Okay.
But now we've been able to get it on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. So wherever you download your favorite podcast, you just type in the Elijah Winfrey Show and it pops up and you go from there.
That's
awesome.
Fabulous.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how did you originally find Peloton?
My wife found it before I did. So about this time last year.
Okay.
We always take a family vacation to a local hotel that we love, and we were there, and they had a Peloton bike in the fitness room. Now, I was upstairs with our little guy and hanging out, and so she went down to work out. She comes back, and she's bouncing off the walls. She's got all this energy. She's like, oh, I just got on the Peloton. It is so worth it. And before that, we had kind of made fun of that Peloton commercial that got all that bad press.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So we were like, I don't know about that. I don't know if we're going to get a Peloton. But she came back and she had such energy. And so in January, we said, let's just buy it. And I hadn't written it yet. So I'm still kind of like, I don't know what the hype is. So,
Right.
So she gets it. We get it set up. I take my first ride and I was hooked. I was all in. Because before I would my workout consisted of what I used to do in the military, push-ups, sit-ups, jogging, sprinting outside occasionally. But getting on the bike, I was like, let's cancel the gym membership. We got Peloton. This is all we need,
Yeah, the military, they'll buy a $400 hammer, but they're not going to buy anybody a Peloton.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was like a match made in heaven. And, I quickly understood what the hype was about. The instructors were fabulous. And you just feel like you're in every class physically, like you can reach out and touch them, from the house. So we became hooked. Haven't missed a day since.
You haven't missed a day? Not
you
one day?
Missed a day?
Well, let me backtrack. Let me correct. I had surgery in September, so I missed a few days. Okay. My wife hasn't missed a day since we bought it. So up to that point, I hadn't missed a day. Like we were that hooked.
Well, we're going to need to see the doctor's note in order to allow for that. Like that's...
I love it.
I guess we'll allow a break for surgery.
There you go.
If you're going to be
like
that.
It was like just a few days.
Right.
Like, I don't know what kind of surgery you had, but whenever I had surgery, the doctor was like, you can't do any kind of cardio because it could mess up the arteries, too much blood flow might mess up sutures. You can't do anything. And it was like 2 weeks. So.
And that's the thing, right? That's exactly what they told me. So I'm sitting there after surgery and I'm going, okay, can I work out? And the doctor's looking at me like, this guy is insane. Like, you just had surgery. And he goes, no. And if you do, you can only go 20%. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And he's like, no, we're just going to call your wife and say, don't let him get on the bike, for a week, So I was clamoring to try to get back on. And so the surgery I had is going to take a full 6 months. So somewhere in March, I'll be able to really go 100%. Right now, I'm able to go 80 to 90, which is good.
Yeah.
I can't chase PRs, but that's what the Peloton bug has done. It's kind of, we won't go anywhere if we know they don't have a Peloton nearby. Like, is a Peloton in a hotel? It doesn't? No, we're not going.
Well, so what kind of workouts were you doing before? Like, before you got the Peloton, were you working out all the time? Or were you just like, when you felt like it, did you have a cadence of some kind?
I would do push-ups, sit-ups a lot. It varied, day in and day out. It wasn't a set regimen. And I think because it wasn't set, Peloton was a blessing to kind of get me back on track, because before, when the pandemic hit, we were sitting around saying, I'm so thankful that we got the Peloton.
Yeah.
Because even though I was doing push-ups and sit-ups, you have that lapse where you go, I ain't working out today. I'm going to get me some cupcakes and some cookies, and I'm going to chill out, But my routine, I always tried to follow that strict military style of getting up at 5, doing sit-ups, doing push-ups, eat breakfast, then get back into doing push-ups, sit-ups before I answer any office questions that I have through email and stuff like that. So it wasn't consistent.
Okay. And since you've been working out since then, and especially with the surgery, have you been using any of the other Peloton content, or you just love the bike and that's where you're at?
I'm all over everything. I do. The only thing I haven't done are the boot camps and the outside running and walking.
Okay.
But the yoga, and I'm not very flexible, but I'll get in there and try. And then when I feel that cramp in that area that it shouldn't be cramping in, I'm like, maybe I should kind of scale it back a little bit. So I try to do everything, the cardio, the stretching. I know that Rebecca Kennedy is like, hey man, you've taken my classes like 500 times. Can you go do another instructor? You know what I mean?
I don't think any instructors know. I bet she's like, "Ba-bow, he's taking all my classes."
Totally.
Well, I would think with your military background, you'd have started with the boot camps.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it hit me because I was like, I want to do that. But then, we have the bike in a place where it's just hard to kind of get on, get off,
Gotcha, yeah.
Get to the mat. It just, it's a lot of
it doesn't flow
a lot of things
well.
we have to do. Right.
I guess also it might be like, no, I've done that.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
That too. That too.
I don't need to do that again.
So you post a lot on the OPP. That's actually where I saw your post. I've seen your post for a long time now. But what inspired you to do that? Because there is a lot of negativity in the OPP, and you have very positive posts. So thank you for that.
You might be the only positive post in the OPP anymore.
They're hard to find. You got to dig.
You do. You know, I try to, when I post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I try to post what I'm thinking at that moment. You know, how do I motivate myself and then pass that on to folks on the page? And, you know, I haven't had any negative comments, you know, in every post that I've had. Now, that's not to say that that's not coming, you know, based on what you see, like that trend is, this ain't going to last forever. Like somebody's going to say something.
Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. So I just try to share my thoughts, and for the most part, everybody's taken to it, and I try to respond to everybody, you know, and the page is kind of like all my platforms. All my social media platforms are positive. I don't get political. I don't talk about religion. It's about positivity, trying to inspire, and kind of sharing, you know, funny things about what I'm doing or my family, and, you know, how we're kind of getting along and things like that. So it's been a blessing, because I've met a few friends who would private message me and say, hey, man, you're like Teflon. Nobody's ever said anything negative. You're like the most positive person on the page. And I'm like, I'm sure there are other people positive. I think they probably see my positivity and go, it's a robot. It's not real.
That is very possible.
Yeah.
But like, why did you originally think to post there? What got you? You were like, I would like to share this inspiration. What kind of struck you?
I wanted to just share me, like, just, this is me. And I wanted to go to a spot or a place where I didn't know anybody. And so I just said, I'm going to start here. Like on my Facebook page, on my, you know, personal page, I know a lot of people, and, you know, there's some good and some bad, but everybody's always fighting about something, whether it's political, religion. And then they go, well, Eli, what do you think? And I'm like, well, you know, I don't talk about it on social media. If you want to talk face to face, we can do that. And the Peloton pages, it was like a, I don't want to say break, but it's kind of like a little retreat where I get to kind of share how I'm feeling, and people get to see who I am. And it's refreshing to get that love back, you know? So that's why I do it. It helps continue to build me up and help me evolve into who I'm supposed to be.
I love that.
Yeah. It just gets so ugly over there.
It
so
does.
It's nice.
It does. Yeah. It's and that's what struck me about your post, because like I'm like, heard it, read it, seen it. Oh, hey, refreshing. And then, you know, it's like another few days later. Oh, there's a nice post. You know, it stands out. It stands out against all the muck and complaining over there. So again, thank you.
Right. And you see so much. When I got on the page in the beginning, I would scroll and I'm like, is there anything positive in here? Like everybody's fighting. Like what's going on? Or somebody just got kicked out or saying they're leaving the page, and they're like, well, get out. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I should post if it's going to be like that. It's like the page is intended to inspire and uplift, but you see it and you go, I don't know. I don't want to get in the mud with everybody. I'll just kind of stay out here and let them do what they do.
You know what's crazy is back when I started, which has been it's been a little over 4 years at this point, there were 8,000 people on that page, and it was positive. Like you could not. The negative posts were the odd ones out.
Yeah.
Lots of people posted the way you post. And it was a lovely place to be. Everybody was comparing rides and planning rides together.
Right.
It was so wonderful. And to see what it's turned into, it's kind of crazy to watch the evolution of it. But that's why I really enjoy your posts, because that is what Peloton is about for me. And that, the lifting people up, the sharing the positive experiences, the motivation, that is
right.
All of those things are Peloton to me. So I love that you exude that Peloton energy.
Thank you. Thank you. But you also see how it's broken off to where there's Boo Crew, there's the Black Peloton page, there's like these different pages.
Like little tributaries that you can go down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a member of some of them, but then you kind of see you still see the back and forth.
Yep.
Whether they're fighting over an instructor who didn't do what they wanted them to do. It's like you see the divisiveness, and it's like, hey, I'm just trying to bring love.
It's okay if you didn't get a shout out, and it's okay if they sang while they were teaching. It's all right. It's gonna be okay.
Right.
Yeah, with the shout outs, it reminds me of like when I was a kid growing up, and you'd call and request a song on the radio, and like sometimes you'd hear your song, sometimes you wouldn't, and then sometimes they'd play back your call, and you'd hear you'd hear them talking to you as the request, a phoner, if you will.
Yeah.
And so like it kind of harkens back to those days of top 40 radio.
It totally does.
I remember that. I remember those days, when you would hear your voice on the radio and be like, oh Lord, I shouldn't have called. I knew this was going to happen.
Especially when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I didn't sound like a chipmunk in my head.
Oh my gosh.
Totally.
Yeah.
My parents always used to have these like parties, like every Saturday night they would play cards and there would be drinking, and back then everybody smoked cigarettes, so there was smoke in the house, and so they would always like have me go and request the songs, and so I would be calling in several times, and like they got the biggest kick out of me on the oldie station because like every weekend, like clockwork, I was calling in.
I love it.
And then after I worked in radio, I look back and go, oh yeah, because the guy that works on Saturday nights, like that's not.
He has nothing else to do.
He's not the big time DJ, or he wouldn't be there on a Saturday night. So he's just excited that the phone rang.
Right.
Right.
He's like, oh, somebody called me.
Right.
That's awesome.
So talk to us about TeamWinfrey.
Yeah, we ask a little bit at the beginning, but like tell us how all that evolved.
That's so I started that nonprofit to once again help the autism community. My niece and nephew have autism, and so my family lives in Georgia.
Okay.
And so my sister's a single mom, and she didn't have anyone to advocate. It's almost like she didn't have a voice.
Right.
And I didn't know what autism meant at the time. So this is before military. And I come over to visit my mom, and my sister's there and her son's there. And I'm playing video games with a buddy. And my nephew comes up to me real close, doesn't say anything. He flaps his hands. Now, I didn't know what that meant. And so he walked away, didn't say anything. And he did it a couple of more times. And my buddy got uncomfortable and left. And I thought I'd done something wrong. So I go into the kitchen and ask my mom, hey, is Elijah okay? Like, did I do something? And she goes, no, he has autism. And she goes, before you make any judgment or you say anything that you don't know about autism, study it. It's this, this, and this. And so I had to kind of study and ask my sister, who's helping you? Like, advocate, get services for him. And she goes, no one, I'm having to do this on my own. And so I said, I'll help. And so I started to be her voice. And in doing that, I think a couple of years went by. I joined the military, got out. I had noticed that people were reaching out for me and saying, hey, I heard you did this for your sister. Like, could you help me? And so I'm sitting and thinking like, I don't know how hard it is to start a nonprofit, but maybe I should do that. And so I was thinking that. And I started to play a little bit of golf. And as I was playing golf and walking in the fairway and hitting the shot and all this stuff, I'm thinking, how can I partner golf and this nonprofit and advocate and make it more about them and less about me? Because I feel like as I'm playing and thinking this, I'm still feeling like I'm kind of selfish. Like my sister's really having a hard time. People who have kids on the spectrum are really struggling. And they've asked me to kind of create something. Now, mind you, I still don't know a lot about autism at the time, or I didn't. So I said to my wife, let's start a nonprofit. I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm going to educate myself. and see if we can help get services, see if I can go out and lend my voice and raise awareness and, have these kids come out and play golf. And some of these kids are nonverbal, just to get them to experience it. And so I can learn as I'm teaching and kind of getting to know these kids. And so we started it in 2013. And it has been such a blessing to be able to do it, not just for the sake of doing it. It has been so uplifting for me as a person to learn more about what am I supposed to be doing here with this life that I have. Like, I can go out and do things selfishly for myself at any time. I can hop on the bike at any time and not think about anything. But is that really what I'm about? And so in starting this nonprofit, I just try to tie everything into what I'm doing. And I try to get back and educate, and the radio show was based off the nonprofit, where it was like I started to kind of put blocks on top of blocks, and I would educate myself with other advocates who are way more advanced than I am. My co-host, she's an expert autism advocate. She has Asperger's. She's terrific. She's based in South Carolina, but the nonprofit is catered toward raising awareness, helping these families get services. We also help low-income families in the community with paying bills, grocery gift cards, just being there physically and letting them know it's going to be okay. So the nonprofit is kind of centered around that. And it's been, like I said, it's been great. It's been a way to kind of really get me to kind of look at myself and see things a bit differently, and not so much, not have it so much be all about Eli. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been great.
So
great nonprofit.
Like I'm interested in the low income aspect in terms of, is there difficulty in that community even being diagnosed in the first place? I would think that they wouldn't have as many resources to even point out or spot the concerns to even address them.
Gosh,
it's a huge barrier, and some honestly don't know.
Right.
And some are afraid to say my child has autism. They don't want to say that.
I'll say something that went through my head when you first started talking about your niece and nephew having autism is the first thing I thought is like, whenever and I didn't even realize I thought this until this moment, when I think autism, I think white kids. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, like when you see it portrayed in the media, it's almost always a white character. Like if it's in like a movie or something, it's almost always a white character. And so like, it was just kind of like, my first thought was like, oh man, I wonder how many black kids are not even getting diagnosed because of, if they're in a lower economic situation, that's just not even getting addressed.
Right. It's a lot of them. They're often told, well, he'll get over it. He'll grow out of it, be more strict or lighten up a bit. And so it's difficult, because then you go back home and you go, well, I don't think he has autism.
Right.
But then later on in life, when he's 45 and he realizes I've had autism all my life,
yeah,
I need help at 45, and there's nothing out there to help him. Right. It's a struggle. And I have a few friends who are on the spectrum who go through that daily. So, and you're right about the white and the black, disparity, where, I think a lot of people watch Rain Man, and they think, is it kind of like that? And they're different. Autism is just, it's broad.
It's a spectrum. They call it a spectrum for a reason.
That's right. Yeah. So it's tough to engage a lot of times with low-income families on this issue. A lot of them are, they'll tell you that they're embarrassed, or they'll say, I think I have all the information here, but they're really being misguided. They're not getting, and a lot of them just don't have the money.
Right.
It's expensive to have your child treated or given these set of services, whether it be in the hospital or in school. Right. It adds up. So it's tough.
So does insurance not cover those types of services, or is it one of those things where you have to have the right kind of insurance and the right kind of job, and not everybody has that ability either, especially right now?
And that's it right there. I mean, it varies, but you're often told, well, you can get this, but because you don't have this, insurance wise, we can't cover that. That's not covered. And so then you have to make that decision. Do I get this services knowing that I don't have the money?
Right.
Right. Like we can't afford it. So what do I do on the back end? Who's going to help me on the back end? So it's tough.
And
it really is.
And those sorts of services, it's not like it's a guarantee that if you go through this, then it's like then you're also weighing the idea of like I could spend all this money and it could make no difference at all, or it makes a 10% difference, and is a 10% change worth X amount of those are all the calculations that start going through your head. It's a lot to contend with.
I never really thought about any of that. I mean, we've been blessed with kids that don't have autism. So I've never had to think through that process in my head. And
it was before we were together, but my youngest son, the school called. They thought he might have had autism when he was in preschool, because he. It's interesting when you talked about your nephew flapping his hands. My son would do that all the time and did it. I mean, honestly, until. I mean,
he's every great once in a while.
He still does it. He's 16 now, but like we used to call it his happy hands. When he would get excited, he would do this with his hands, and that's that can be an indicator of that. And
it can be right.
And he would do other things like he was a big fan of parallel play, where he would play next to a child but not with a child, and so the school called and we're like, hey, we're gonna give he had like sensory processing issues, which can be a component of autism or Asperger's, but can also exist independent of, and he ended up having that. And so, but there was a period of time where we were just like, oh, what does all this mean? You know what I mean?
Right. And it just comes down to just educating yourself, and others, it's not passing judgment. It's just, you want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. So you're better able to kind of tell the next person, hey, this is what I've learned about autism, or whatever. So I just think it comes down to that.
Yeah, because ultimately there's nothing to judge. It's not a character flaw. Nobody did anything wrong.
Right. It's just something you're born with.
It's just the way they see the world. And sometimes, depending on where they land on the spectrum, like it opens up a whole other world of possibilities. It's just a matter of how you approach it.
That's absolutely
right. Absolutely.
Wow.
So how are they doing now? How old are they, and how are they doing?
My nephew is 21.
Okay.
My niece is still in middle school. The ages, I'm getting so old now. It's hard to kind of remember those ages. I know she's in middle school, and they're both doing really well. My nephew was high functioning.
Okay.
He had a high functioning autism. My niece is low functioning.
Okay.
So even sometimes when I visit, she's very like, I don't know you. Like, I would rather not, come and hug you.
Right.
Or, and so I understand that. But they're doing well in school from all indications and all reports that I get. I try to get check-ins periodically, but being in the Pacific Northwest, they tell you what they want to tell you, and then they keep out the other stuff to kind of be like, he's all right. Don't worry about it. Live your life. I'm often told that.
Yeah, that's always hard. And I think that's just kind of families in general. They they do tend to just tell you what they want you to know.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think we all do that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's regional. I think we all do that to it. As open as I am, there's all sorts of things I'm not telling people.
That is true. I agree.
So kind of changing topics back to Peloton. I heard you were in one of the Peloton member commercials. Is that accurate?
Yes, I was.
So how did that come to be? And what was the process like?
I still don't know how it came to be. Here's the thing. But my wife will say it's because of the analytics of the Peloton Facebook page. She was like, they see those hits. So they know that you're pretty positive, and they look that up. And I'm like, it can't be. that can't be right.
I don't know if it has anything to do with analytics, but I absolutely agree with your wife. I know for a fact that they look through the community page, and things that stand out to them are some of how they choose people. So I don't know that it's necessarily numbers driven, but how you interact with people was absolutely taken into account. Absolutely.
Well, if that's the case, then it was probably because of that. And they had reached out in February and they said, could you be part of this campaign that we're going to do later in the year? And I'm like, sure. And at the time, I'm kind of like, oh boy, it's probably a scam. Like somebody's like, this can't be real. So I'm like, oh, sure, I'll do it, whatever.
They're like, yeah, you're going to be in this commercial. Just wire us $7,500. Yeah.
Totally. And so the months go by and they reach out again and they go, well, you passed this initial test. So we're going to interview you.
Wait, what was
Zoom.
The test though? Do you know what the test was?
It was kind of like, who's your favorite instructor? Why? What do you like about the community? Something about outfits too. They asked me something about like outfits and they go, we'll process all this information and we'll let you know if you've passed and moved on to the next phase. And I'm like, okay, I guess. So they in June, they reach back out again and they go, you've been picked. What we want to do is come out and do it first they said July. And I'm thinking to my wife, they want to do this, but are they going to pay me? Like, is this, because I'm thinking it's COVID. Like,
right.
Everybody's going to be in the house. Is that safe?
You know?
And so I didn't say anything to them. In my mind, I'm thinking that, and then they come back with, these terms and things and things that I can't say or can't reveal. And I'm like, I won't say anything because I don't really believe it's going to happen. Like, that's how I'm thinking. Like, I'm kind of like, oh, whatever. Right. And then, I think the month before the shoot, because they pushed it back to August, they said, okay, we're going to come out. And what we want to do, we want to take a tour of your house. We want to see some video on Zoom. So I kind of showed them on Zoom and they were like, oh, this is great. Like, you got a good space. And I'm thinking, well, when they get here, they're going to be like, we don't know. It's kind of small. Right? So they send someone out, they show up, they kind of look around and kind of go, well, we can do this and we can do that. And they're thinking, we can take this out. And I'm thinking, wait, they're going to give me a whole new living room. So they're going to take all this out. Am I going to get to keep all this stuff? And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. So they're like, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And they come in the day before the shoot. They set up everything. They put us up in a nice hotel, just a great hotel down the road. And
did the hotel have a Peloton?
Yes, it did.
I was curious.
It did. That's the first. It did, because I said we had two options. We can go in the city where the Peloton was at our favorite hotel, or we can go down the road. I was like, I'm not going anywhere else. And at the time, I was like, so Peloton's going to put us up. And I was like, ooh, well, why don't we stay at the most expensive hotel we can find? I was thinking that.
Right.
But then my wife goes, let's just find a hotel with a Peloton. So we call around and we go, oh, we want this one. And we reach back out to Peloton and they go, oh, sure, we can make it happen.
Aw.
Yeah, it was great.
That's
so
nice,
they kind of put us up in the hotel. And the day of the shoot, I come in and it's raining, which is, Seattle.
Okay, yeah.
It is what it is, So it's raining the morning of, and we get tested. We get our temperature checks and everything. And, the apartment complex that I'm living in did not like it at all. They
Really?
were like, we don't want them on site. They're gonna have to set up off site. So they have to set up off site at a remote location. The neighbors did not like it. They were like, no. We don't want any cameras. We don't want any people, any crew here. No, none of that. So they go, Eli, this is gonna be tight. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna lose the commercial because the apartment is gonna say, they say no. They said they don't want them here. And so the director goes, we'll work around that. We'll find a way. And we're gonna make it to where it's gonna be only 8 people inside, and we'll make sure everything's clean, safe, and healthy. And they did that. We did some shooting outside, some inside. I can't tell you the amount of donuts I had to eat doing this shoot.
Had to? They mandated that, did they?
Well, I think they probably did.
They did.
I have that because it tied into your leaderboard name, right?
Yes. And so they were like, we're going to get you a spit bucket. So if you don't want to eat anymore, you can just spit them here. And silly me, I'm just eating them. I'm like, I don't want to spit them out. I'll just eat them.
So
and every
good.
time I'm biting into one, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. How long is the shoot going to be? And they go, we got about another 2 hours. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. I'll just keep eating. And they were like, are you sure? You don't look well. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll make it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was hilarious, but it was so much fun shooting that, interacting with the staff and the directors and the film crew and getting on the bike and, having the Peloton instructor. And I think I want to say she trained all the instructors. It seemed like she knew exactly what she was doing.
Okay.
And I realized I was sitting on the bike. My level of my seat was wrong the entire time I've had a Peloton, so she kind of fixed that for me.
That was a nice little perk. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good perk because I was like, okay, I was sitting here and I was comfortable. And she's like, no, you need to be up higher. And I'm like, I don't know if that's comfortable. But then after a few tries, it was like, oh, okay, I get it.
And you'll probably have a lot more power too.
Yeah. Totally. Didn't realize that. But it was awesome to be picked. And, I hope to maybe do something with them in the future. Who knows? My fingers are crossed on that. But they seem happy with the product. And it was great to see it on TV. And after the first 2 commercials, I'm kind of like, I'm good. I don't need to see it anymore. Like, and my wife's like, you're on TV. And I've been on TV before. She's like, not like that. You're on Peloton, like Peloton. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking,
yeah, that's a big deal. Like Peloton's kind of the hottest thing right now.
Totally.
So to be
really
in a commercial for them is pretty freaking huge.
It is. And I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, I sure hope we don't get any hate like that other commercial. I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh boy, I don't want to be in the middle of another, like, whatever, But it was received well. And I think from everything I've heard, the Peloton community really liked that they had real people in.
Yep.
And not actors who don't really get on the bike. They're just there just for the commercial. So it was kind of refreshing to kind of see those comments come through. So.
Absolutely. That's been something that, again, since I have been part of the community going back for over 4 years, people have been asking for, to have a commercial that had people in it. So it is a huge deal that you got to be part of that, because that is something people have been asking for. It's like, well, why do you have all these actors? And I mean, it's us. We're the ones that make the community. We're the ones that make Peloton go, so to speak. So bring us in.
Exactly. I often thought, like, and I know this is silly. This is something my wife and I laugh about. I go, they should have someone from the Peloton community, come in studio and just do a fan cycle. Like, let them lead a class, let somebody from the community lead a ride.
That would be so cool. I think that's against the studio rules now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but a long time ago they used to have whenever things were a little more relaxed rule wise in the studio, there was a Jen Sherman ride where she the Peloton had actually done an entire contest, and whoever won got to go up and be on stage with Jen Sherman during the ride. And
wow.
It ended up being 2 women. Remember, because we interviewed Laura Pug, and they tied. It was Laura and somebody else, and they tied for the contest, and so they both got to go up and ride on stage. Like, nothing like that happens anymore. Those days are so far behind. But yes,
a lot of times when companies are just starting out, they have these contests that they're like, this will be fun, and then they do it and they're like, never again.
Yeah.
If you want to have fun, Google MTV gives away a house. And that contest went crazy, and it was for John. Well, at the time, I guess he was John Cougar Mellencamp, but it was for his pink houses. They gave away a pink house, and then John Cougar Mellencamp. Maybe it was just John Mellencamp. Either way, and shows up, and it's crazy. Crazy
okay, well,
it's
now
good story.
I'm going to have to Google that. Oh, what a great experience. So that's amazing. How long was the process between like when you were when they filmed it to when it actually showed up on TV? And did they tell you it was going to be on? Were they like, okay, here's where it's going to air?
They did. So we filmed it in August. It aired I think started October 5th. And when we wrapped, the director said, well, it may be a while before they put it on because you still have to go through the edits. So there's still a possibility that they won't use this material. Right. And I'm thinking, huh? Really? We just did 12 hours of work and you're not going to use any of it? Well, can I have it? Because I'd share it, But I got it because, they did say like, you have to make the final edits. And, once I did that, it was awesome to see it.
Well, that's good. You made the cut. Like game shows work like that. If they don't air your episode, you don't win the money.
Right.
You don't.
Really?
Yeah, you don't get the money until it actually airs.
There you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody in there, I've had contact with, and they're all great. And, I ride with them a lot. It's a blessing to be able to do it. And, it helped my nonprofit because more people saw me. Right. And then they go, oh, we saw you in the commercial and you advocate for autism too. That's awesome. Like, could you listen to my story? And, I have to be quick to tell them like, I'm an advocate. So as I advocate, I'm still learning as well. So be patient with me if I don't get it right away or it takes me some time. So it was a blessing to do the commercial. It really was.
So did I miss the donut stuff?
Oh, I think it's not showing his leaderboard name. I think it's like so
you'll see it like it'll be right at the bottom where they kind of show. So my leaderboard name is
right there.
Peloton golfers.
Okay.
Right. Elijah 0626. But the donut video, I don't know if that made it or if they're holding it to do something else.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. Because when I think a couple of days before it aired on TV, they said, we want you to change your profile picture to this with the donuts. And I said, okay, is there a reason? She goes, you'll see later, but it's got to match what we're going to put out there. So maybe that's coming down the road.
Yeah.
Something to look for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And for people that are listening, if you go to our YouTube channel, we're playing the commercial in question as we talk. So,
yes.
So you could see it there.
Yeah. And of course, there's the link out to that commercial as well.
Right.
Yeah, I love that whole series of commercials. We were watching, it popped up the other day. I have no idea what we were doing, but because we usually don't watch live TV.
Probably the news or something.
Yeah, and it popped up, but it was one, like, it did this whole, like it was one of the women who was featured, and it like went into her whole like life story, and I'd never seen that before. I was like, wait, this is like a 5-minute commercial. I hadn't seen any of them do that before, so that was interesting. I didn't know that was out there.
So in regards to your leaderboard name, I guess you're a big golfer.
Yeah, I am. Well, I used to be. So I played tournament golf for about 22, 23 years.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
I love the game. And, I found my purpose, toward the latter end because of the autism work that I do. Mm-hmm. And it made it that much more gratifying. But at that time, my body started breaking down. I had back issues and I had to really make a decision. And, I stopped playing tournament golf last year. And, I kind of limit my golfing now to one-on-one events that help the nonprofit that in turns help the community. So I host these summer events that I play with friends and we raise money and we take that money right away and we kind of dump it back into the community, whether that be autism related or low income related, where we can help pay someone's rent or someone's cable bill or someone to have internet service for their kid during remote learning. So it'll always play a big part in my life. You know, it would always be a platform that I can use to go back to.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a fun game, right? You can pull your hair out. And teaching it, I try to tell people, just have fun with it. Everybody tries to perfect it, and nobody perfects it.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods doesn't, perfect the game. Like,
he's throwing a club or two.
Exactly. And I've thrown a bag or two. I've learned I'll tell you this quick story. So when I started playing golf, I would play with this military friend of mine, and he's since passed away, and he was an older guy at the time. And I was just learning how to play the game. And I would get frustrated because he was in his 70s, and he would hit it. It would go straight. I would hit it, and it would go in the trees or in the water. And I'm getting frustrated. And my girlfriend at the time had just bought me those clubs. They were about $1,100. So we get to this hole, and there's this pond there, like down in the fairway. And so I hit my ball. He hits his ball in the fairway, in the middle of the fairway. My ball's in the water, so I'm just steaming. So we drive up, and I get the ball and out of the water, and I hit it back in the water. And so I just kind of slowly walked to the back of the cart, took the golf bag off the cart, and took the whole set of clubs and just chucked them in the lake.
Oh, no.
Yes. And at the time, I didn't know that the owner of the golf course was looking directly at what I was doing. So he kind of rides out, and I'm just like sitting there just angry. And my buddy was like, you got to learn how to play golf and be patient. You got to be patient. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it, And so the guy drives up, and he goes, we're going to have to ban you for life for doing that. Because a lot of people saw that. We don't want to give off the wrong impression. And at the time, I was angry that he did it. But as I got home, I understood why he did that. He was teaching me a lesson about anger and patience and, not trying to perfect the game,
And they were rental clubs. You've left that part out.
I wish they were, because when I got home, it was a talking to. She was very upset.
I bet.
And I had to wear that because she was right. We eventually broke up, not because of that, but because, other things. But she was right. That was a gift. And when you get a gift, you treat it as a gift.
Yeah.
You don't get it and then just throw it away. And so I tell that lesson to a lot of kids that I coach, that you got to be patient.
Yeah.
Let it come to you. Like, don't flip out. Believe me, I know. I can tell you this. I can show you this. We laugh now, but at the time it was kind of
I'm sure. Yeah.
I needed that lesson. I needed to learn that.
I played golf a grand total of one time in my life. That's when I found out that did you know this? There's a maximum number of strokes per hole. And if,
of course you found that, Tom.
Luckily they're there, because if there wasn't a maximum number of strokes per hole, I would still be there to this day.
Like still
there on trying to finish that round of golf.
I've been there.
Was awful. So do you have any advice for people who are just now entering the world of Peloton?
I would say my advice would be to enjoy the journey and trust whatever process that you're on. You'll see it as long as you trust it and you're patient, and just have fun. I think we have a lot of friends who are on now who've bought bikes, and, I try to tell them, you're not competing with that person next to you. It's fun, believe me, from time to time to kind of do that, but you should be chasing your goal. Like that personal goal that you set that week before, you should be trying to chase that and get better and build, and just enjoy that company that you have. Yes. Especially during COVID right now, where we're not able to get to the gym. Like, you got a leaderboard full of people, give a high five, and, I've done I think they have a little video thing where you can just click the video and people pop up on it. I've done that once or twice. Kind of scared me in the beginning because I'm like, I don't know, letting somebody in.
It's like, what's going to happen?
Right. But I would say just embrace it and enjoy it for what it is. It's a fun community. Everybody inspires one another, and I love it because of that.
Awesome. Well,
that's great advice.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. This was a lot of fun.
It was.
Thank you.
I guess before we go, just remind everybody where they can find you and all of your stuff.
So if you're on Instagram, I am at Eli0626. Facebook, Team Winfrey. Just type in Team Winfrey. You can find me there. On Twitter, it is at Elijah_Winfrey or at Team Winfrey Corp. You can find me there. So
awesome.
A lot of ways.
Well, thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed it.
Likewise.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your day.
So I guess that brings this one to a close. Until next time, where can people find you?
People can find me at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, on the bike, and of course the tread at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group. Wherever you're getting your podcast from, be sure and subscribe so you never miss an episode. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, next week, Monica Ruiz, the Peloton wife. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep pedaling.
And running.
Clip in.